Even when someone doesn't see a long-term future with you, they may see a short-term benefit in you. To avoid being used or having your time wasted, you have to be able to tell the difference. Hi ladies, welcome back to the Feminine Universe. I am so happy to have you here. So there are women who believe that the fact that a man is with them means he likes them. That because he spends any amount of time with them or because he chooses to lay with them, he likes them. But unfortunately, that just isn't the case. Life would be so much easier to navigate if people were honest and upfront with their intention towards us from the moment we met. But that's not the world we live in, and that's not the way humans are wired. So the next best thing is being able to observe the way someone treats you to determine how they view you and what their intentions are. Because even though people may not exactly tell us these things, they do tend to show us. So today, we're going to get into why people aren't upfront about their intentions and why certain men pursue and stay with women they don't actually like. We'll also go over a few things to look out for in order to determine if someone has genuine interest in you or if they're just seeking some sort of temporary benefit. This will be mostly from a dating perspective, but these concepts apply to all kinds of relationships because, as most of us know, friends, strangers, coworkers, and bosses can be users with sketchy intentions as well. Let's get started, shall we? There's a question I get a lot from women in general, and I've been getting it non-stop since the 5 categories video. When I shared the categories I've realized that men put women into. And the question is, if a man doesn't like me, if he's not interested in me, if I'm not his type, why doesn't he just leave me alone? Why bother with all these categories and all the other nonsense? It's a fair question. And I think the simplest word to explain why some men pursue women they don't like, why they don't turn down the advances from women they're not interested in, or why they will categorize women and treat them in all these different ways rather than just leave them alone is access. They may not want your full package, but they want access to something you have, and simply leaving you alone would mean completely losing access to that thing. Sometimes women will push back and say, he doesn't treat me well or how I'd want to be treated, but he must like me in some way because why would he stay? He could leave at any time. Or the men will say to them, I'm here, aren't I? And again, I have to point out, people go to jobs they hate every day. People spend their lives in neighborhoods they despise. They keep the job because they need the money. They stay in the neighborhood because that's what they can afford. Just because someone is somewhere doesn't mean they want to be there. In dating terms, I've noticed that women are more likely, not always, but more likely, to turn men down and wait for what they want. Or they'll go in the controversial builder mode and will try to turn the man they have into the man they want. If he doesn't have a job or doesn't have a good job, she's helping him work on his resume and look for better opportunities. If his appearance is a little rough around the edges, they're going shopping and she's picking out nice things and getting him more into self-maintenance and self-care. Whereas men can completely get over what they want and settle for what they can get in the moment. As we've talked about, men don't always deal with the women they want, they deal with the women they have access to. Because while they may not see you as a long-term partner, they may still see some benefit of having access to you in the short term. And yes, a large portion of the time, the benefit of that access is physical gratification. But there are many other things as well. Things like validation, feminine attention, having access to your resources. It may be access to your connections, the ability to help them get back on their feet during a hard time, or they're looking for a coworker to help them put in work to start their business and build their empire, or simply just not being alone and lonely, especially if the other men in their group who they used to hang out with now have significant others themselves. In instances like these, they will settle for what they have access to, not invest much during their time together, and then the minute they gain access to what they actually want, they will usually just walk out of the previous person's life. I want to point out that when I say men categorize women, I don't mean that they literally have an Excel spreadsheet or a little notebook where they write, "Dear diary, today I met my dream girl," or "Dear diary, today I met a desperate girl. Here are all the ways I'm going to mistreat her." It doesn't happen that way. A lot of times these categorizations are subconscious. It's like they get an initial feeling, and then with each time you say yes when you should have said no, with each time you let something slide that you should have called out, with each time you stay when you should have walked away, each of those instances are what they use to determine what category they subconsciously put you in, and therefore how they will treat you. Now let's be real here for a moment. Though it manifests differently, all of this behavior is absolutely not limited to men. You know I'm not with the gender wars. All humans size each other up and categorize each other. It may not sound good, but we all do it. Men size up women, women size up men, kids know which parent will let them get away with things, students know which teachers will accept their excuses. We are biologically wired to look for clues that tell us more about our surroundings and the people in them. We are also wired to determine if or how others can benefit us and how we can use situations to our advantage. Again, it's not pretty, but it's true. Early societies were built by people with different sets of skills coming together and using each other in a symbiotic way to boost the group's chances of survival. Nowadays, because society has gotten so me-focused and there are more personality disorders than ever, not only do people not care as much about contributing to the society or to the person they're dealing with, they've become way more comfortable with the idea of completely exploiting others and taking advantage of them. To avoid being taken advantage of, I want to touch on 3 ways or 3 things you should look for to begin to get a better understanding of whether someone genuinely likes you and is interested in you for the long term, or if you may just be filling a short-term need in their life. And those 3 things are interest, input, and influence. Do they take an interest in you and your life? Showing interest in you is going to look different if this is someone you just met versus someone you've known for a while. But unless someone has a pathological issue or they're a professional con artist, it's going to be extremely difficult for any human being to feign interest in something or someone they don't care about, especially for an extended period of time, which is why I always tell my ladies, take your time. Time is your best friend. The mask will usually slip if you give it enough time. So if someone talks a lot about themselves all the time, like it's their show and you're just an audience member, if they never ask you about your life or your interest, or they forget major things like your birthday, if they never compliment you or notice changes in you, also if they slip up and do things that show that they're not paying attention, like if you've mentioned you're allergic to peanuts a few times and they order something with peanut sauce for you both. Or if you've mentioned your family or having several siblings multiple times, and at some point in a later conversation, they're like, "You're an only child, right?" All that shows a lack of interest. Someone forgetting one detail when they're getting everything else right for the most part is no big deal. We're human, we forget things. But if it's happening consistently, that could be a red flag. It's hard to focus on and remember details about things you're not interested in. The next one is lack of input or investment. Do they give you their input verbally? Are they investing time, effort, money? Men are natural problem solvers and women are natural improvers. And one of the ways each gender expresses these traits is by giving input on your problems or your everyday situations. maybe by telling you what they would do if they were in your shoes. In men, this can look like stepping in or trying to give you solutions to problems. And in women, this can look like trying to help you do something better or make something more convenient for you. So if you mention that you haven't been sleeping very well, are they suggesting melatonin or those magnesium cocktails? If you've been stressed about a work project or presentation you have to do they remember? Do they give you their best public speaking advice? Do they wish you good luck the morning of or follow up to ask how it went? Are they regularly providing their input on the things you're dealing with, or does it usually feel like you're talking to yourself or you're getting good luck with that energy? When someone isn't into you, it's hard to let themselves get invested in your day-to-day because they know they won't be around for long. So what's the point? It will feel like a waste. And yes, this applies financially as well, but always remember, you don't want to look for financial investment alone, especially when finances aren't a big issue for that person. Their willingness to spend can be used to cover up the fact that they aren't making any emotional investment. And a third thing to look out for is influence. Are they receptive to your influence? This is sometimes called mirroring, mimicry, or the chameleon effect. And what all these terms refer to is the fact that we naturally start to pick up and match some of the habits or mannerisms of the people we spend time with and people we like. And the more we like them, the more open we are to letting them influence us. So it might happen faster or more frequently the more we like the person. When we don't really like someone and we don't want to intertwine our lives too much, we subconsciously keep up a bit of this mental barrier to keep their influence out. We don't want to become conjoined in any way. We want to remain as two completely separate entities. If you have particular words or phrases you like to use and you notice them using it, if you kiss your teeth a lot and they start doing it, or maybe they start watching your shows or taking an interest in your language or culture if you're from different backgrounds, those are all really good signs that they are genuinely interested and open to being influenced by you and therefore more connected to you. While there are certainly other things to look for, and I'd be happy to share more red flags and green flags, these three are a great place to start. Ladies, there are men who love and adore women. If a relationship is something you want, please know there are men out there who want relationships too. Men who want to do right by you, who want a future, who want to see you happy, flourishing, and well loved. The key for the good women and the good men out there is to avoid getting used or having your time wasted by the shady folks in the meantime. You've got this. Until next time, ladies, stay feminine, stay focused, and have fun.